Hello there folks, welcome back to the Chap's Guide. My name is Ash and I am your host on this journey through men's style, self-development and personal grooming. Now today I'm going to answer a question from a viewer which might help all of us when we find ourselves in a similar situation. And the question today comes from Marcus, who has said, I've been asked to join a series of events with the purpose of networking. But it makes me a little nervous as I have no experience within such an activity. I would consider myself not introverted, but seldom do I take the first step in a conversation. I see myself as well equipped with good habits, manners and good self-esteem. So nothing that is concerning. Do you have any tips, suggestions or strategies for networking events? With your experience, I assume you've been in such situations in the past and your appreciated input would be welcome. Okay, well, Marcus, the old networking event, eh? That situation that brings professionals together in a specific event designed to get you to talk and chat and engage with the other people. But more often than not, those very acts of bringing people together, it seems forced, it seems unnatural, it seems artificial. And as a consequence, we sense that feeling and we tend to clam up, and it actually becomes much harder for us to engage and break down those social barriers that exist between strangers and initiate a conversation. You are absolutely right. I have found myself in many such situations over the years, both professionally, both socially, often in conferences and other events that I've attended. And I have, over many years, built up some coping strategies to help me get through such events. And I'm going to share with you today. Now, the first thing I'm going to say to you is think about your appearance, because as human beings, we are hardwired as a species to judge other people that we encounter within just a few seconds. We will form an opinion which is very difficult to change once it's been made. And there's good reason for that in the natural world, because when we encounter another stranger, we're going to think, are they a potential threat? Are they a potential ally? And in certain situations, are they a potential mate or a partner? These are the things which subconsciously run through our minds when we meet another person for the same time. And obviously, it goes without saying that what we're aiming to do in a networking event is present the best possible version of ourselves, so that when people look at us and drink in visually the way that we are presenting ourselves, we want them to think the best of us, so that when we embark upon this networking, this relationship building, which will stem from these initial meetings, it's going to be on the best positive footing. So when we go to an event like this, we want to wear appropriate clothing for that situation. Simple things like shiny shoes, nicely pressed clothing, clean shaven, well groomed, whatever the situation you are, you're going to look your very best in that situation. You don't want to turn up looking as if you haven't shaved for a week, looking as if you haven't ironed any of your clothing. It's going to give a bad first impression. Now, the other thing you want to do is dress appropriately for the situation that you're in. All right, so wearing a collar and tie to a mixer for an engineering business is not going to be appropriate, because people perhaps don't dress like that in that line of work. So dress appropriately for the situation. Don't overdress. Hit that happy medium. Never be afraid of being the best dressed man in the room. There's nothing wrong with being the smartest one there. Somebody is going to be the best dressed person in that room, and it just as well be you than anybody else. But also keep it appropriate. So, you might have a liking for, biker clothes, leather jackets, or you might, in your own time, enjoy steampunk as a manner of dressing. Well, now isn't the time to reveal that to the world. All right, dress conservatively in the way that you expect other people are going to expect you to dress. Reveal those secret parts of your life a little bit later on, when people know you a bit better. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is booze. because alcohol is often made available at these networking events, because there's the belief that if people have a few drinks, they'll loosen up a little and they're more inclined to have a chat with the other strangers who are present. However, I know what you're thinking. I'm really tense. I'm really nervous. I'll have a beer. It'll take the edge off. And it probably will. And then you'll have another one to take the edge off a little more. And suddenly you're talking rather loudly. You're talking about subjects that you wouldn't ordinarily stray into. Religion, politics, sex, relationships. These are things which are best left until you know people really well and what might offend them and what they may find humorous. So do not be the boozy, loudest person in the room. Stay away from the booze. Have the soft drinks. If this is an important networking event where you're likely to meet future allies and people who can do your career the power of good, do it sober. Now, the next tip I have for you is to do your research about who else is going to be present at this event. Because if you can find out who also is going to be there, it gives you a bit of a leg up, because you can then go to town and find out more about them. So that when you meet, when you encounter these people, you perhaps know what they're going to look like. You know what their proclivities are. So you can enter into conversations which will be productive for both of you. So the sort of thing I'm suggesting is find out who's going to be there. Ask the organizer who else is going to this networking event. Then you can do some digging. Look them up on LinkedIn. You can see if they enjoy, playing a sport, or they're a member of a charity, or they are, in the Army Reserve or something like that, which means I've got an opening there. When I meet this person, I know what they look like because I've seen them on Google or LinkedIn, I can enter into a conversation in a natural way, which is going to open doors. It's going to make life a little easier for you. Preparation is key. This goes to your outfit as well, because if you know that the person, shall we say that they used to be in the army, all right, or the RAF. I was in the RAF. If I saw that another person who I was going to meet in a networking event also had a previous career in the Royal Air Force, I'd make sure I wore my RAF tie so that it would open the door to a conversation. And then when I met that person, I could say, RAF tie, you were in the RAF, weren't you? It's an opening to not just a professional friendship, but a relationship beyond that as well. So take every opportunity to take advantage of the information that a little bit of research can do for you. And while we're addressing the subject of be prepared, remember, if you're doing the research on other people, they are going to be doing the research on you as well. So take the opportunity to tidy up your digital footprint on the world, all right? So if you've got a LinkedIn account, get on there, put a recent photograph, not one of you when you were 25 and you looked like an athlete, right? Let's be realistic. Let's have a photograph of you as you are today so people can recognize you. That's the whole point. And update your details. Tell people about your hobbies, the activities you take part in. This is one of the important functions of business networking sites like LinkedIn. And similarly, think about your other digital footprint. Think about, your Twitter, your Instagram and things like that, Facebook. Think about the things you're tweeting and be aware that others may look at those platforms to get a picture of you as a rounded person. So let's not be showing photographs on there of you as an 18-year-old on a rugby tour, drinking beer from a Wellington boot whilst on a tour of another part of the country. Keep it clean, keep it appropriate, keep it business-like, so that people who look you up see the best possible version of you. Now, when you're at a networking event, this is your opportunity to do your mother proud with good manners and good courtesy to the people that you meet. Remember, you're on show. People are looking at you and they're judging you and they're drawing a first impression, and it's very difficult to reset an impression once it's been set. So always display good manners. Always stand up when you meet people for the first time. Shake hands. Offer a hand and shake it. There's lots of other elements you can do. Be respectful in the manner in which you speak to people. Always introduce yourself by name. Carry a business card. I always keep business cards in every jacket that I have. Here we are, my business cards, always in the pocket. So if I meet people who I think is an opportunity to make a connection, hand a business card over. It's so much more professional than having to scribble it on the back of a cigarette packet in your pocket or type it into somebody's phone. It looks as if you're not prepared for the situation. So always good courtesy, always good manners, and do your mother proud. Okay, let's get down to the actual crux of this networking event. The thing that makes people worried, and that's talking to others. So let's talk about conversation management. I learned a lot about this over my many years as a professional investigator, in which I interviewed many hundreds, if not thousands of people to draw information from them. And of course, through my networking over many, many years of going to conferences and events where I'm meeting new people for the first time. Now, these are the techniques which are very useful in conversation management. The first thing I would say to you is be aware of your non-verbal communications. It's been said, or research has said, that about 80% of the way that we communicate with other human beings is non-verbal. It's not about speaking. It's about our body language and the way that we portray ourselves to others. So one thing you can do is stand with an open posture, particularly when you're speaking to somebody for the first time. What do I mean by that? Don't cross your arms in front of you as you're standing there as a sort of natural response, because that simple act puts a barrier between you and the person that you're talking to. It's perhaps an instinctive thing, but the other person sees it, they feel a little bit closed down. Have an open posture, arms at your sides. It's more inviting and encouraging for people to talk to you. When somebody does approach you and starts to talk to you, invite them to sit down. If there are tables in the event, sit down, because you feel more relaxed and more open to engage. If you're both standing, having a conversation, there's always this sense that there's a hurry, because you want to, move away, walk away. Sit down, it'll definitely encourage engagement. When you're engaging with the other person, talking to them, lean towards them. This gives an indication that you're interested and you want to hear what they're saying. It's all these little nuances in the way that you talk to somebody that encourages them to chat back to you and be open and very engaged with you. Maintain good eye contact. Now, I don't mean stare into somebody's eyes as if you're a sort of serial killer and you want to bore a hole into their soul. Just make occasional solid eye contact, because human beings, if we can't meet somebody else's eye, and if we're looking away in every direction when they're talking to us, we get the impression that you're a little shifty, that you don't want to meet our glance and have an honest and open conversation with us. So meet the glare of the person that you're talking to occasionally. Doesn't mean you have to stare into each other's eyes. Just look at them occasionally. Don't be afraid to make eye contact, and try and be visually relaxed, all right? Don't look as if you're tense, start sweating. Just chill. Even if you feel tense, make yourself think as if it's a performance, that you're performing as if you're relaxed. And before you know it, you will have slipped into the role naturally. Now, when it comes to the conversation, I remember a long time ago, my investigative interview mentor said to me, remember this equation: you have 2 ears and 1 mouth. You listen twice as much as you talk to make a conversation happen. And this is a really great way of managing your conversation with other people, because human beings, they love to have people listen to them. They love to tell their story. And the problem is, when you've got 2 people who feel the same way, it's confliction. You're trying to talk against each other. If you're in a conversation, listen, don't talk. Let the other person transmit while you actually just absorb it all. And you can help that by managing what you say. Ask open questions, right? So an open question in conversation is a question which can't be answered with a simple yes or no. It's things like who, tell me, why, when, and where. I'll give you an example. If I was to say to you, isn't the weather lovely and sunny today? The only response is yes or no. But if I was to phrase it in a different way, what do you think of the weather today? Now, that can't be answered by yes or no. It can be only answered by a sentence. And a sentence is the beginning of a conversation. So phrase your questions carefully so that the other person talks. And if they get talking and they get into the flow, let it happen. And just listen. Don't feel as if you've got to keep interjecting and putting your point across. Let the other person speak and really listen to what they've got to say. And then when they've done talking, give a meaningful response to what they've just been talking about. That way you will build a real quality conversation. And the last tip I'm going to give you is remember to follow up afterwards. All right, so after you've met these people, you've exchanged business cards, you've got their phone numbers, there are opportunities there waiting to happen. Do not be the person who 6 months later puts on that jacket again for the first time and finds that business card you were given that night and you think to yourself, ooh, I wish I'd rung them now. Make a particular point of no later than a few days after the meeting, emailing and contacting everybody that you had the opportunity to meet on that networking event. Because believe me, it'll perhaps pay dividends in the long run. It's too late after a week has passed. Make sure you do it immediately and the people will remember you. They'll put you in the Rolodex of people they contact, and then your networking event was a success. So there we go. Those are my suggestions on how to make a networking event work for you. And as I said, to win the room, because it is a bit of a competition, a networking event, and don't be afraid of what's going to happen. Just be prepared and be authentic and just go with the flow. I remember vividly a very challenging networking event I attended many years ago when I was at a United Nations conference in The Hague. And I sat down at a table, I was waiting to listen to a lecture. I turned to the person next to me, we had a bit of a conversation, and I said to her, so what do you do? And she said, oh, I'm the Foreign Secretary for the government of the Republic of South Africa. And I thought, oh, okay, where do you go in that conversation? Actually, we found some middle ground. I'd never been to South Africa, but my wife had. She told me some stories about it, and I was able to find some middle ground, and we embarked upon a conversation which was both meaningful and interesting for both of us. So irrespective of the fact that she was a high-level diplomat and I was just, a civil servant attending that event, actually, I walk away from it and I'm talking about it many years later. So that networking event was positive for me. Make the networking events that you go to positive for you. Authenticity and some research and preparation will win the day. So there we go. I hope you enjoyed this video today. If you have, don't forget, give it a thumbs up. If you'd like to see more, click the subscribe button. If you would like to ask a question, feel free to do so. Drop it into the email address below or even drop it into the comments and I'd be delighted to respond to you. Maybe I'll make a response video at some time in the future. And if you'd like to support the channel, you can buy me a coffee or become a patron. And my patrons get additional video content from me, and we've got a bit of a vibrant patron community going on over there at the patrons pages, the links to which you will find in the show notes below. So until the next time, be prepared for your networking events and win the room. And I will see you again very soon.